If I told you there's a habit so simple it could change your financial life, and that all the world's millionaires practice it in silence, would you believe me? No, it's not about counting bills in a vault. It's not about mirror rituals, and it has nothing to do with luck, connections, or inheritances. This habit is so common, so boring for most people, that when I tell you, your first reaction will be disappointment. But if you truly understand it, you'll realize it's the invisible foundation of all great fortunes. Today, you're going to discover the habit millionaires practice when no one is watching, and how to apply it yourself, from scratch, to build the mindset and the results you've always dreamed of. But before we begin, I want you to ask yourself a brutally honest question. What's your strongest financial habit today? Do you save consistently? Do you invest regularly? Or do you simply spend and hope the money stretches? Think about it, because what you're about to hear could be the difference between staying trapped in scarcity or starting to build real abundance. For years, I, too, believed that millionaires were millionaires by luck, through connections, by being born into a wealthy family. And yes, some were, but most started from scratch, without advantages, without capital, just with a habit. A habit so powerful that it reprogrammed their minds to think differently, act differently, and earn differently. I became obsessed with discovering what it was. I read biographies, studied routines, analyzed patterns, and I found it. It was something that was repeated time and time again, in Warren Buffett, in Bill Gates, in Elon Musk, and in thousands of anonymous people who today live in financial freedom. When I started applying it, my life changed. I didn't become a millionaire overnight, but I went from surviving to thriving, from working for money to making money work for me. And what is that habit? Get ready, because it sounds too simple, but it's what separates those who only dream from those who actually achieve. They read every day, without fail, but they don't read for entertainment. They read to reprogram their minds. They read to feed their brains with empowering ideas, while everyone else feeds theirs with distractions. Warren Buffett reads 500 pages a day. Bill Gates, more than 50 books a year. Elon Musk learned to build rockets by reading. They don't do it for information. They do it because they understand something that almost no one else grasps. Each book is a private session with a brilliant mind. While most people seek entertainment, they seek mental expansion. While most people scroll aimlessly, they sit down to strengthen their minds, because they know that your mind is the asset that builds all the others. And here's the most important part. They don't read to learn more. They read to think better, because they know that money never surpasses the mindset of the person who possesses it. Now I want to show you how millionaires apply this habit, how they structure their reading, and how they turn a book into money, decisions, and freedom. Because reading isn't the end. It's the beginning of everything. Have you ever wondered why so many people read books on finance, motivation, or mindset, and yet their lives don't change? Because reading doesn't transform you on its own. What transforms you is what you do with what you read. Most people read like they're watching a movie, to be distracted. Millionaires read with purpose. They don't seek fleeting inspiration. They seek to understand mental patterns. They don't underline pretty phrases, they underline ideas that they then turn into action. When Buffett reads about companies, he's not looking to memorize facts. He's looking to discover how the leaders behind them think. When Gates reads about history or biology, he's not doing it out of curiosity. He's doing it to understand how great problem solvers think. And when Musk reads about physics or philosophy, he's not looking for answers. He's looking for questions that expand his mind. That's the secret. Millionaires don't read to escape the world. They read to redesign it. And here's what almost no one tells you. Reading is only useful if it changes your behavior. If after reading a book about money, your decisions remain the same, then you learn nothing. If after reading about discipline you continue to postpone your goals, it was just mental entertainment. That's why millionaires apply a formula that very few know. A golden rule that distinguishes superficial knowledge from transformative knowledge. That rule is called one idea, one action. Every time they read a book, they don't try to remember everything. They only look for one idea, just one, that they can apply immediately. And that idea becomes an action, a small improvement, a new habit, a change of perspective, a smarter decision. That constant repetition, idea, action, result, is what slowly builds a millionaire mindset. Because the brain doesn't change through inspiration, it changes through repetition. And when you train yourself to think differently every day, there comes a point where you no longer need motivation because your new way of thinking becomes your identity. That's where true transformation happens, when knowledge stops being information and becomes instinct. Think about this. Every page you read with intention is a seed, but it only germinates if you water it with action. Millionaires don't have more time, they have more intention. And here's the step you can take starting today. Before opening any book, ask yourself, what do I want to change with this? Don't read for the sake of reading. Read to solve a real problem in your life. If you're struggling with procrastination, find a book on focus and productivity and apply just one technique for a week. If you're trying to improve your finances, don't look for the most famous book. Look for the one that teaches you to make better decisions with your current money, not the money you dream of having. The secret isn't in reading a lot, but in reading consciously. And that, though it may seem small, is what differentiates those who change their destiny from those who merely collect information. Because in the end, millionaires don't read to escape the world, they read to build a new one. They say money changes people, but in reality, it only reveals them. Because money doesn't transform you, it amplifies you. If you are disciplined, it becomes your ally. If you are impulsive, it becomes your punishment. That's why true wealth doesn't begin in the bank account. It begins in the mind that manages it. Most people want to earn more money, but they aren't prepared to think like someone who deserves it. They want abundance with a scarcity mindset, freedom with habits of slavery. And that's the conflict that keeps millions stuck. Money is like water. If you don't know how to hold on to it, it slips through your fingers. And that's why the secret isn't earning more. It's learning to hold on to what you already have. What good is winning 1 million if your mind keeps acting as if you have 100? That's why so many lottery winners end up bankrupt. Not because they lack money, but because they have too much inner emptiness. They never train the most important part of wealth, the mindset that knows what to do when money comes. And here's the point almost no one wants to accept. Your bank account will never exceed your mindset. You can have luck, opportunities, even talent. But if you haven't developed the identity that sustains abundance, everything you earn will, sooner or later, be gone. Because money doesn't elevate your life, it only elevates your unresolved emotions. And if you don't know how to manage them, you'll end up repeating the same cycle over and over. Win, spend, regret, promise to change, and start all over again. The problem isn't your salary, it's your hidden beliefs. That thought that tells you, money is hard to earn. Rich people are selfish. I wasn't born for that. These phrases aren't harmless. They're mental codes that program you to lose. The millionaire doesn't think, how much does it cost? They think, how much value does it create? They don't ask, what do I gain if I do this? But rather, who do I become if I try? Because they understand something the rest forget. Money doesn't follow desire. It follows the mindset that knows how to turn desire into action. That's why, before chasing more income, they chase more awareness. Before asking for more opportunities, they ask for more clarity. And before trying to change your balance, they change the meaning you give to money. Because if you see money as an enemy, you'll distance yourself from it. If you see it as a god, it will enslave you. But if you see it as a tool, it will liberate you. Money is neither good nor bad. It simply amplifies who you already are. And that's the power no one teaches you. When you master your mind, you master your finances. So, the question isn't how much you can earn, but how much you can mentally sustain without sabotaging yourself. How much success can you tolerate without losing humility? How much abundance can you handle without losing purpose? That's the breaking point. Because when your mind grows, your environment realigns. Your energy changes, your decisions change, and money, inevitably, shifts. Your mind is the first asset you must learn to invest in. And when you do, everything else falls into place. There's something no one tells you when you begin this journey. It's not just about money. It's about who you become while you build it. Because financial freedom isn't a number. It's a state of mind, an inner place where you no longer depend on fear, validation, or scarcity. Most people look for magic formulas, courses, investments, shortcuts. And sure, all of that helps. But if your mind remains the same, everything will return to square one. It's not money that sets you free. It's the awareness with which you manage it. Money only amplifies what already exists within you. If there's emptiness, it leaves you empty. If there's purpose, it empowers you. That's why true millionaires don't seek to escape work. They seek to escape ignorance. Because they understand that true slavery isn't in the system. It's in the mind that accepts living without questioning it. Freedom begins when you take control of your thoughts, when you stop being a spectator and become a creator. When you understand that every decision, every book, every habit is building or destroying your mental empire. And then something almost magical happens. You stop chasing money, and money starts following you because you no longer operate from need, but from clarity. You no longer work to survive, you work to expand. You wake up every day knowing that you are creating something that transcends, not just material wealth, but mental, emotional, and spiritual wealth. Because what good are millions if you feel empty? But when you have purpose, even silence feels abundant. True success isn't about having more things. It's about having peace. Peace to sleep soundly. Peace to choose without fear. Peace to know you don't need to impress anyone because you are already enough. That is true freedom, not the freedom of money, but the freedom of the soul. And when you get there, money ceases to be an end in itself and becomes a tool to serve, to build, to leave a mark. So if you're starting out today, if you feel behind, if you see others moving faster, remember this. You're not competing with anyone. You're building your most powerful version. And that version will come if you don't give up. Because wealth doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in layers. First mental, then emotional, and finally material. That's why you should invest in yourself first, in your mind, in your knowledge, in your peace. Because everything external is just a reflection of what's inside. And when you understand that, everything will change. Your way of thinking, your way of deciding, your way of living. And that day, you'll look back and realize that it wasn't just your bank account that changed. Your life changed changed, because you read, you learned, you applied, and you freed yourself. Your mind was your first asset, and you turned it into your greatest fortune.